Welcome, everyone. It's 6 o'clock. We'll get started with the Papillion La Vista Community Schools Board of Education meeting for May 13th, 2024. We will start with item 1, call to order, Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, roll call.
Ms. Wood.
Here.
Mr. Lotus.
Here.
Mr. Madler.
Here.
Ms. Fisher.
Here.
Ms. Witt.
Here.
Okay, do we have a motion for Mr. Bailey?
Yes, I'll make a motion to excuse the absence of Mr. Bailey.
I'll second.
Okay, we've got a motion by Mr. Lotus and a second from Ms. Fisher to excuse Mr. Bailey. Roll call.
Mr. Lotus.
Yes.
Mr. Madler.
Yes.
Ms. Fisher.
Yes.
Ms. Witt.
Yes.
Ms. Wood.
Yes.
Motion carried.
You. I'd like to remind everyone we have the open meetings notes posted on the entrance to the room. Moving on to section 2, communications, recognition, and we have a lot of plaques up here. So I'll hand it over to Dr. Rickley.
Thank you very much, President Madler, members of the board. For our community members that are with us this evening, thank you for being here. It's always a great show of support, whether you're at home watching online or joining us live. We do indeed have a stack of recognitions this evening. This is a really good problem to have. For those of you that are new to our board meetings, at least once a month, we try to provide some recognition of either staff or students who have gone above and beyond and have really exemplified what the Papillion La Vista Community Schools is all about. Could be academics, could be activities, could be any number of things. So we have a list of individuals we'll be recognizing. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through each category at a time, and what we'll do is I'll give you a little bit of a blurb about who's being recognized and why. We'll take a minute to present the plaques over here to my left. If moms, dads, family members want to come up and take pictures, communications will also take pictures, but we want to make sure for those that are here that they are being properly recognized and that family has an opportunity to do the same. So we're going to start from the top. Starting with Skills USA, state champions, no small feat. We actually have a couple of different individuals, a couple of different teams that are being recognized tonight. From Papillion La Vista South High School, I think we're a little bit out of order on our slide deck here, so I'm going to go by my reading, and then Dr. V can kind of flip between the slides as appropriate. So from Papillion La Vista South High School, advisors, Mr. Campbell, Mr. Stribley, we have a number of individuals that were associated with this group. We have Emma, Caden, Clara, Joseph Strawn, and then we received a number of chapter awards. We received the Chapter Model of Excellence Award. Only one is awarded per chapter for the entire state of Nebraska, no small thing. And then this group from Papillion La Vista South also received the Nebraska State Leadership and Excellence Award, also only one awarded per state per year. So the team at Papillion La Vista South exemplified what it's all about, being a Titan, and we couldn't be prouder of this group. So for any member of Skills USA South team, please come on down and be recognized by your community and Board of Education.
This is the plan of this one. That's for the whole chapter. Oh, yeah.
Nebraska State President stepping down because he's set his sights on a new level, and Brock wants to campaign and run for national office. So, we wish Brock. Include Brock in our picture? Yeah, that'd be great. Brock, that'd be great.
done, Titans. We are proud of you. And from Papillion La Vista High School, I want to make sure that we've got Braden's. Also, we're still staying in the broad category Skills USA. The Monarch advisors are Evan Horick and Chris Todd. Braden Covington also won an individual state title for Skills USA. I don't know, did I see Braden come in? Braden, please come on down and be recognized by your Board of Education. Outstanding job. Well done, Braden. We are proud of you. Next broad category we're moving on to is state journalism, where both high schools are represented. First off, we have from Papillion La Vista South, we have an individual award winner, Kinley Harris, who is at Papillion La Vista South High School. I don't know if we have Coach Albrecht here or not. Kinley, were you able to make it? Kinley, come on down and be recognized by your Board of Education. Well done, Titans. Congratulations, Kinley. And we're moving on in that same category, state journalism champions from Papillion La Vista High School. I did not see Coach Rahacek. Coach Joe's not here. His voice is still recovering from commencement yesterday. He had a marathon task of announcing 500-plus Monarchs. So we have a number of Monarchs that will call out their name, and then we'll do the same thing. We're going to bring you down here. We have Owen Betts, Hudson Carrico, who is champion in 3 different categories. Izzy Gerharder, champion in 2 categories. Ella Miller, Eleanor Precker, and Addison Schmid, who is champion in 2 categories. And besides all of that, Monarch was the state champion, and by the way, this is back-to-back titles for the Monarchs. They've got a bit of a 4 overall, I believe. 3 out of the last 4. Thank you, Mr. Lotus. We have a bit of a dynasty going, not only in softball at Monarch, but also in journalism. It's an incredible program. For our journalism students from Monarch who are here tonight, please come down and be recognized by your Board of Education. Well done, Monarchs. The beat goes on at Monarch High in journalism. Outstanding program. Okay, next up we have, this one made graduation comments. Perfect ACT happens very, very rarely, ladies and gentlemen. ACT, perfect score is a 36. Less than 1% of all test takers across the United States will score a perfect score. To even score a 30 puts you in rarefied air. Anything above a 30 generally puts you in contention for University of Nebraska Regent Scholarship. So to beat that and get a 36, it is very, very rare. And we had one from South, Papillion La Vista South, Logan Dorlog. Logan, are you here? Out there you are. Come on down and be recognized by your Board of Education, Logan. Well done. Congratulations. Picture of parents? We would love that. Nothing will please us. Does that work? All right. Outstanding. We'll all take a good look at Logan tonight. Working for him later in life. So well done, Logan. Life holds great things in store for you. Finally, our last category, it's something we do every single year, and that is we recognize our student council representatives. Traditionally, we've had 2 monarchs, 2 titans that give the board updates on activities, athletics, points of pride, things that we're just really, really proud of. And it's an investment of time, and we're deeply grateful because these are not only leaders in their buildings, but they're students, they're busy. A lot of them have part-time jobs or in activities, so for them to come to our Board of Education meetings and give us ongoing updates, it means an awful lot. First off, I know I saw Nova and Diana from Monarch High. Please come down and be recognized by your Board of Education. Well done, ladies. And I didn't see if we had our South reps, Gigi and Cameron. Did we have? Outstanding. Please come down and be recognized by your Board of Education. We have outstanding students. We have outstanding leaders. The future of this country is bright, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you, parents, for loaning us your children. We are super proud of them. And with that, Mr. Madler, I will conclude our recognitions for the evening.
Thank you, Dr. Rickley, and that takes care of items A and item B. So moving on to item C, public comment for items not on the agenda. When I call your name, please make your way down to the podium. Each speaker has 3 minutes. Ms. Branco has the timer. First beep at 2 minutes, 15 seconds. The final beep at 3 minutes. Before you start, please state your name and address or city. And the first speaker tonight is Jenny Lechner. Welcome.
Hello. I have a joke for you today.
You state your name and the city.
I am Jenny Lechner, and I am doing a joke today. 9111 Valley View.
La Vista.
La Vista.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, go ahead.
Trying to remember my joke. What's a shark's favorite card game? Go fish.
There you go. Of course. Yeah. All right.
I also want to give a shout out to some teachers. The first one is the lunch lady. Her name is Kara, and also Miss Barranco, Miss Wright, and Mr. Burbach. I want to give them a shout out for being very nice and very gentle.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
Jenny, it's not often that we have students come up and speak to our Board of Education. It takes a huge amount of courage, and as you're finding out, it's kind of nerve-wracking, right? Staring at a bunch of
Yeah.
people in front of a board meeting. So it takes
Yes.
a huge amount of courage. It takes a huge amount of initiative and confidence on your part. Thank you for being here. It sure means an awful lot. And hope you have a great summer.
Have a blessed day.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you, Jenny.
Okay. Next, we have Mr. Darrell Lechner.
Hello, everybody. Again, my name is Darrell Lechner, and I'm from La Vista. And that was my other daughter who usually had me bring jokes to you all. And we finally got it to the point where we could be here and she could do one for herself. There was another joke she wanted me to give to you a while back, but we weren't able to make it. So I'll give that one too. And there's a reason why I'm wearing shark slippers now and this shirt, because I keep my promises and I'm doing what I'm told in this one. But quickly to the shark joke. What is a shark's favorite song? Anybody? Was it Baby Shark? Baby Shark. It's one of those songs you just can't get out of your head after a while. But I wanted to end this year with a happy note too. We have all done some wonderful things, and thank you again, Dr. Riki, also for passing out so many wonderful comments and visiting our schools and seeing the students and the teachers and letting them know how much they are appreciated and are loved. I mean, it takes we're all of us working together to make our community better, and I want to thank you for that too, and thank all the members for working. Keep reaching out to us parents. We love you all and we appreciate you all, and we're going to work with everybody. I want to give a special thanks out to some of the principals at Monarch High School. They have done fabulous work. I've worked through lots of fun times with them over the years. Some not so much fun, but it's working together we can make our world a better place. And that's one of our mottos, that's in my family, and it's why we do what we do, and why my daughter got up here finally, because she's seen me here as many times and trying to make our world a little bit better. Outside of that, I wanted to at least give you all a big shout out also for all your hard work. Don't stop. Keep love alive, and we can work together and make our world better, especially in our community. That's what we're here for. We're all family here. Outside of that, thank you again. Lots of love, y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Lechner. Okay, moving on to item D, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Rickley.
Thank you again, Mr. Madler, members of the board, members of the community. Thank you again for joining us. It's been a busy few weeks since our last board meeting, and just as a reminder, this is the only board meeting we have in the month of May. Ordinarily, our second board meeting of the month falls on the Memorial Day holiday, so you get one dose of us this month, and we have much to discuss this evening. First off, I wanted to thank the board and share with the community, two board members and myself, Marcus Madler and Sue Ann Witt, and I were able to travel to Washington, D.C. The Nebraska Association of School Boards hosted a federal advocacy conference. I suspect you may hear a little bit more from them later on. Basically, we had the opportunity to meet with U.S. Department of Education officials on a variety of federal initiatives. We met with, as a large group, with Senator Deb Fisher to have a briefing from her, and then we split up and did one-on-one meetings with the rest of the 5 congressional delegates representing the great state of Nebraska. We also had the unique privilege of attending the Nebraska breakfast, where we were briefed again by our congressional delegation It is the oldest continuing breakfast. It's not really a breakfast, it's more of just a meeting, but it is the oldest continuing breakfast of any state in the union. I think it's been running for like 50-some years. So it was a lot packed into 2 days, but I felt like it was a great opportunity for the board and myself to not only advocate for the state of Nebraska, but certainly the interests of the Papillion-La Vista Community Schools. We're also wrapping up our gratitude awards for the year. Dr. V deserves a ton of credit for that. I think I'd mentioned to the board and community at least once prior that we were in the middle of coffee pick-me-ups. We have approximately 1,800 employees spread across 21 buildings and 5 or 6 ancillary programs. In theory, we hit every man, woman, and child in the school district. And as I mentioned earlier, took a huge amount of coordination and logistics from Dr. Villarreal and his team to make that happen. It's maybe the single most impactful thing we do for our staff. I think I've mentioned before, you wouldn't think a $5 cup of coffee really makes that big of a difference. Bless you, Ms. Fisher. But it does, and I think Ms. Siri said it well. She's like, Andy, it's because it shows that we care about individuals, we care about being visible in our buildings, and it's individualized. You may get a smoothie, I may get a cup of black coffee slathered in creamer. Doesn't matter. We all have our unique differences and preferences, but when we honor those unique differences and preferences, it shows the people around us that we care. So just want to thank everybody who was involved in that. Also want to just thank everyone for attending our senior celebrations. There were so many the last week and a half. Health Systems Academy, Zoo Academy, Young Adult Transition Program, Project Search, Education Academy, Education Signing Day. The list goes on, and we had board members at every single event, at least one board member, and they were outstanding events. And in most cases, there weren't a lot of dry eyes at the end, which is one of the things that makes this time of year so special and so worthwhile. Capped it off, of course, yesterday on Mother's Day for commencement. We had 2 outstanding commencement activities. We got to do so on Mother's Day. So for the moms and grandmas that are watching tonight, we love you. We appreciate what you do for us, and we were just privileged to be able to spend a little bit of time with you on that special day. We also hosted the Years of Service and Retirement Awards. We also had basically the entire board there. Mr. Bailey's out-of-state attending a job-related function. By the way, he couldn't make it. Otherwise, we were able to celebrate with our Board of Education all of our employees that had 25 years of service or more and the employees that are retiring. So that was a special event. May 21, I know it's on the board agenda, but that is a half day. That is the last day. It's fast approaching. Can't believe we're already here. And the last thing I have on my superintendent's report is we have a primary election tomorrow, followed up by a general election in November. So for our 3 incumbents that are running, Mr. Madler, Ms. Fisher, and Mr. Bailey, we wish you the very best of luck. And for the 7 challengers, we wish you the best of luck. This is one of the things that makes this the best country on planet Earth, is the peaceful transition of power. So we won't know the final list, of course, until November. The list of 10 will get whittled down to 6. But I would strongly encourage all of our patrons, please vote, exercise your duty as a citizen of this great country of ours. And hopefully we'll have some results by about 8:30 tomorrow night. And with that, Mr. Madler, I'd conclude my superintendent's comments.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Rickley. Moving on to item E, board reports.
Well, I had the privilege of attending several of the events over the last couple weeks and enjoyed each and every one. They all were very special in their own right. Papillion-La Vista South Honors Night was on April 25th, and Papillion High School's Honor Night was on May 6th, and those students earned in around $40 million in scholarships, so a great thing to celebrate. I also had the opportunity to attend the Education Academy graduation and the Health Systems Academy, their special event as well, and it's great to see kids seeking and looking at their future while they're still in high school and exploring opportunities that they might have. The Years of Service and Retirement celebration is a great opportunity to honor those that have given so much to our district. We had a 40-year recognition this year, and that's just mind-boggling, and also a wonderful celebration that someone chose to spend 40 years of their lives giving to our district. Project Search Senior Ceremony and YATP Senior Ceremony on the 10th were both great celebrations and opportunities to let kids demonstrate the wonderful things they can do, the talents they can access, and be successful in many ways. And of course, you know, pre-K prom was a highlight for me, and I think it made me stop and think that we all should dance like nobody's watching, as those pre-K kids did. But in all the ceremonies, and of course commencement yesterday, the thing that rang true and came to me was that of all their great accomplishments, you know, it really is about the relationships. You could see loud and clear they valued the friendships that they'd made through their years in school. They treasured the teachers, the staff members that had worked with them and got them to this point. And of course, the love and support of their families was what really mattered. So great celebrations, great honor to be a part of all those things. And there's a lot to celebrate. So it was all very well done at each event.
Well, this is always my favorite time of year because we get the opportunity to celebrate with students. And as a board member, I find it to be a highlight. I wasn't able to attend everything I wanted to attend. Unfortunately, work interferes with that sometimes, my actual paying job. But those things that I could attend, PLHS Honor Night, Project Search, YATP, graduation, the years of service and retirement, quite a highlight for me, and then of course graduation. I think the thing that strikes me the most are the wonderful relationships that you see between these students in all of these areas and their teachers, their custodians, food service workers, all of those wonderful people who help our students every single day and make a difference in the lives of our students. And I just want to thank everyone that touches our students in ways that really matter to them as the school year goes by. Just providing that little uplift when they need it, that little smile when they're needing it. It just makes such a difference. So we are very fortunate. Our students are very fortunate to have such great, wonderful staff surrounding them at all times, providing them with what I truly believe is an outstanding education throughout the school district. So a lot of fun, a lot of, I'd say there were some tears, and for the years of service and retirement, one teacher in particular that was the first teacher in our, well, she was in our district, and her first year she had Jared in 5th grade, and maybe 4th, I don't know. It's hard to remember. It's so long ago. But and she stayed with us all this time. So that kind of tells you, you know, how long that's been since my son is going to be 39. So I think it kind of speaks to a lot of what you were saying, the length of time that people give to this district out of the love of students and the enjoyment of being a part of Papillion La Vista Community Schools. So great enjoyment during this time of year.
I too attended many events. I was one of the candidates that got to attend the DC event. It was very productive, I felt, and what I think is the greatest thing is, was there like 30 or 40 people from the state of Nebraska? And they were from Omaha, the biggest school district, to one of the smallest districts. Where was he, Murdoch or somewhere? He was teeny tiny. Yeah, it was the smallest district. I mean, we had a broad spectrum, so our elected officials got to hear the challenges from both ends of the spectrum, which I think was fabulous. I attended the PLCS Honors Night, Years of Service, Project Search, and the YATP graduation program, and of course our graduations yesterday. Each of the speakers, the thing that always get to me first is the quality of the comments that come from the speakers who are at these events. And there was one young man who said we were 4,078th best school district in the United States, and out of 80,000 or something like that, which we thought was in error. We were number one, of course, so just so you know that. The other thing was the music. To me, my mom was a choir director for church, so whenever I hear music, especially kids singing, it just that's where I start crying, and I'm done for the rest of the day. So the soloists were fantastic at all of the events. My favorite, though, had to be Jackson Karen, who was this singer at the YATP the first time they've ever had one of their students get up and sing, and he was amazing. I can't remember the song he sang, but the last line was always, it's like me. If you look around, it's me you'll see. And it was just heartwarming. I'm just so proud of the students and the staff because they collaborate to make these achievements happen. And $40 million isn't anything to sneeze at when you look at the amount of scholarships that went out to our kids. So great time of year.
I won't repeat what everybody else has said. Just one thing from commencement that hasn't already been said. Just want to give a huge thanks to the administration and the staff, faculty of both high schools that, again, take their time out on Mother's Day to make sure that 2 graduation ceremonies that saw approximately another 1,000 alumni of this district come across the stage is pretty remarkable. Special shout out to Mr. Ryan at Mountain Monarch coming within 2 minutes of his expected goal time. That was pretty spectacular. Even after a couple fumbled diplomas, that was. I don't think I'd seen more than maybe one, and to have 7 or 8 was unique yesterday. But they picked up and rolled. So. Just such excellent events, and to see the families, and again, Baxter Arena is a fantastic place for us to hold commencement. That's always a highlight for me, is just the cheering and the uniqueness of some of the that's my brother and different things that are always entertaining and keep us going. But yeah, this, as Ms. Fisher said, this is just a wonderful time of year. One of the major reasons why, I think most of us got involved and wanted to run, speaking of elections, was, yesterday was the payoff. And to see so many students at both schools, especially the 21st class at Papillion La Vista South, Marcus and I were commenting that we were just, doesn't seem like that long ago, but it was just a good time, and we look forward to it every year.
I agree with the comments on the events. They've been great, and I appreciate the staff and all the time that it takes, and the students taking the extra time as well for them. For the DC trip, enjoyed the conversations with Senator Fisher, Congressman Bacon. But Ms. Witt, you forgot the main person that we saw in D.C. as we were waiting for Congressman Bacon, when Bill Nye, the science guy, walks out of Congressman Bacon's office, and we get a picture with Bill Nye, the science guy, which was great. Yeah, bow tie and all. So that was great. But I enjoyed the opportunity to talk with the board members of the other districts, understanding what they're going through. Some of their, lessons that they've learned over the years. If we go through, all the school districts go through similar issues, and it's just good to get an understanding of how they've handled them, or roadblocks, or struggles that they've had, just to better understand as we try to figure out our path through them as well. Also did the Monarch Honors Night. Again, $20 million for the families there and scholarships, which is great to see. I mean, that just helps out those families and the community as a whole when we can see that the level of scholarships, and thanks to the staff at both the high schools for helping the students with those scholarships, so that the students understand, the families understand the different opportunities that are out there, and then help them through the process of actually applying and getting those awards. And then the years of service and retirement celebration, great event to see so many people and bring their families as well to those when they're getting celebrated, and then the graduation, which was a great event as always, and perfect weather. So outside of the rain for the Titans one, but it kind of held off, kind of was only when we were in there, but yeah. Any other board comments? No? All right. Moving on to item F, committee reports, buildings, grounds, and finance.
We did meet since the last meeting. We have refunding, restructuring on tonight's agenda, as well as a lot of the facility improvements and the copiers and transportation. We pretty much own this agenda this evening out of this, our subcommittee. So lots of conversations around all those areas, lots of activity, obviously getting ready to get fired up for the summer construction window, which obviously we're kind of talking about tonight. So lots of bids are coming in, and we'll have probably numerous items on the next few agendas to keep all these projects going.
Thank you. Human resources and student services.
We have not met.
Curriculum and Americanism.
We have not met. There's an item on the agenda tonight.
Okay. Moving on to section 3, action items. Item A, action by consent.
Make a motion to approve the action by consent as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have the motion by Ms. Witt and the second by Ms. Wood. Roll call.
Mr. Madler,
Yes.
Ms. Fisher,
Yes.
Ms. Witt,
Yes.
Ms. Wood,
Yes.
Mr. Lotus.
Yes.
Motion carrying.
Okay, moving on to item B, refunding, restructuring of Series 2020C bonds.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Madler. I'll ask Cody Wickham of D.A. Davidson to come back up this meeting. We had a lengthy discussion at the last meeting on this topic, and we'll bring him back for another round of information and questions from the board regarding this restructuring.
Thank you, Brett. Good evening. Cody Wickham with D.A. Davidson, bond underwriter to the school. We're kind of round 2 to discuss the opportunity in front of the district. Let me start by kind of rehashing the concept that we talked about a couple weeks ago, and then I brought some additional information that we have some slides that kind of broke down the potential savings into kind of a high and average and low possibilities that are kind of more in line with reality based on looking at the whole thing, knowing that we're not going to receive 100% of the tender offer. So the concept itself, the school district issued taxable bonds back at the end of 2020. It's your Series 2020C bonds. I'm going to pull out my phone so I can look at some of these numbers. The interest rates on those bonds range from 0.67% in 2024 up to 2.1% on the long end, which is 2034. So those bonds, the interest rates on those were great at the time. The current holders of those bonds, many of them would like to get out from under those because given the current marketplace, those interest rates, those yields are incredibly low. They're bringing down their overall portfolio. So if they were to trade those bonds to get out of them in the marketplace right now, they would have to trade them at a deep discount. So the opportunity for an issuer that issued those bonds, you can make a tender offer, which is an offer to buy back those bonds at what the current market price is, plus a 3% premium. So for those sophisticated buyers that purchase those bonds, which a lot of these being the type of bonds that they were, non-bank qualified and taxable, you had a lot of hedge funds and insurance companies that bought those. When you make a tender offer to purchase those back at slightly above market value, they look at that as a great opportunity to trade out of those better than what they would normally do. And it's great for you all because you're buying your bonds back at less principal than what you originally issued. Do we have the slides? So again, I broke this down to kind of a high, average, and low. So we've been through 9 of these transactions now, and some of them, there were a lot less targeted bonds that we were proposing a tender offer for, the smallest being just over 11 million. The district currently has 32 million of targeted bonds of your 2020C. So you all have kind of a much larger net to cast to go out to the current bondholders and see if anyone would be interested in accepting the tender offer. So if you look on the far right, the call price, that would be the purchase price that you all would be willing to buy your bonds back for. That's, again, the mark-to-market price plus a 3% premium. So on the short end, it's 97 cents on the dollar. On the long end in 2034, it's 79 cents on the dollar. So if you're buying back $1 million worth of your bonds, you're buying them back for $800,000 approximately. So that's where the savings is generated. It's the inverse of what you're used to of a normal refinance. Instead of issuing new bonds to save interest, you're buying back your bonds and you're lowering your total debt, so you're saving money on principal. So if you were to get, in this case, the high participation, which was 38.84%, if you were to get that level of participation on these bonds, of the 32 million that are targeted, you would be tendering 11.7 million, 11,770,000. Go ahead, go to the next slide, Brad. In that scenario, you would see annual savings ranging from, well, it looks like 63,000 on the short end to 91,000 on the long end. Now, again, those savings are generated through principal, not interest. Your interest cost is actually going up, but you all, the taxpayers, the school district, you don't care where the savings are coming from as long as your annual payments are going down. So the total savings in this scenario, if you were on the high end of what we've seen your peers do in this type of transaction, you would be looking at a net savings over the life of the bonds of $834,000. Go ahead to the next one, Brett. Now this is the average of the 9 we've completed. The average participation has been 28.53%. In this scenario, it'd be tender offer of $8,655,000, and the savings would be approximately $43,000 to $62,000 per year for a net savings of $604,000 over the life of the bonds. And then I ran a low scenario as well. This one is kind of an outlier from the 9 transactions we did. This was the second one that we did, and it was for Gehring schools. They received 18.01%. They only had 20 million of targeted bonds, so less than what you have. And a lot of those bonds were purchased by banks. A lot of the feedback that we received was the banks understood that based on the mark-to-market, it was a good transaction, but a lot of them weren't comfortable with going back to the boards of their banks and saying, we just took a $200,000 loss on our Gehring school bonds. They didn't want to have to go and explain that, even though they understood that it was a good deal at the time. So we had lower participation on that particular transaction. If you were to receive the low end on this, it'd be $5,460,000 of tendered bonds, and the savings would be net $368,111. So there's a lot of question marks with these. You know, normally if we come to you with a refinancing idea to go from high rates to low rates, we can give you a pretty good idea of where we think those savings are going to fall. This one is very tricky because not only do I not know what level of percentage we're going to get, but I don't know which bonds are going to be tendered. So I can give you these hypothetical scenarios, but if we get 30% participation, but they're all on the short end of the curve, these savings numbers are going to vary. Now, I'm confident, being through this so many times, and you all having enough bonds out there that are eligible, that I think we'll have a successful transaction. So when I was here a couple weeks ago, I mentioned the only downside to this was the fixed cost that we can't run away from, and that's the Globic fee, which is the information agent. We have to pay them to provide the list of known bondholders, and then the rating fee, which what I've been able to do since our last meeting is eliminate both of those risks. So the rating fee, because you all will be going back out later this year, likely in the fall for the next new money issuance, when they go through the committee and the rating is applied, we could use that towards the new money if this deal flops. And then the Globic fee, which is $11,600. Last time I mentioned we've been offering to split that with our clients. I want to make you all comfortable with this transaction. And again, because of the amount of targeted bonds, I'm confident that we're going to get a successful transaction. If for some reason we don't, that D.A. Davidson will pick up that entire fee. So your risk is zero. I'm hoping your upside is somewhere north of $500,000 in savings. If there's any bonds that come in that produce negative savings, which right now the only ones, as we've kind of gotten closer to December 1 of 2024, those bonds are now producing negative savings. So I've already told Globic we're going to remove those from the tender offer. So that would have been the risk prior, is the only bonds that come in are the ones that are due in 6 months, and there's not enough time to recoup those savings. So we're going to remove those from this transaction altogether. So if any bonds 2025 to 34 are accepted tenders, we're going to have some savings to be generated. So I think, I'm confident with this transaction moving forward.
Questions?
Thank you, Cody. Any questions?
Well, you answered one of my questions because it was going to be what was the biggest risk factor, so thank you. And I may have just missed this, but where does the funding come from for us to purchase these bonds back?
Great question. So if we were to get hypothetically 10 million of accepted tenders, we don't want to deplete your cash reserves and say that 10 million with the discounted that you would have, you have to buy those back for 8 million. So you're picking up 2 million in savings. Well, you don't want to use 8 million of cash reserves. So what you do is you turn around and issue a new set of tax exempt refunding bonds. And those are at tax exempt rate, whereas these old ones were taxable. So that's where the interest is going to be a little bit higher, but you're picking up 2 million in savings. And let's say for the next 10 years, your interest cost goes up by $100,000 each year on these new tax exempt bonds. Well, that's $1 million in added interest cost, but you've saved 2 million in principal, so your net effect is $1 million. So you would issue a new set of tax exempt refunding bonds to pay off the accepted tenders. So there's a lot of moving parts as we go through the process. My plan right now for the timeline, should you all choose to move forward, I don't want to have the tender window or the potential pricing straddle Memorial Day weekend. So the idea would be to open the tender window on Tuesday, May 28th, day after Memorial Day. It would be open for 10 days, so all of the bondholders would receive the invitation to tender. Our sales guys would be calling them, giving them swap analysis, basically helping to convince them that this is a good opportunity for them. And then when the tender window closes 10 days later, which is Wednesday, June 12th, we turn around the next day, and at that point we know how many tenders have been accepted. So if we have 8 million or 10 million of accepted tenders, we turn around the next day, we sell $8 million worth of tax exempt bonds, and then we simultaneously close the new issuance of bonds to pay off the tendered bonds.
Sorry, please.
No. Can you explain the difference between the taxable bonds that we are potentially refunding versus going to the tax exempt bonds, and what the difference is for them for the district?
Yep. So it's extremely rare historically for a school district in Nebraska to issue taxable bonds. Those rates are always higher than the tax exempt. In 2020 and 2021, it was such a unique time because the spreads were so compressed. Interest rates were so low that the difference between tax exempt and taxable bonds was minimal. The reason for issuing tax exempt bonds at that time was because the district, like many others across Nebraska, had the ability to advance refinance bonds that were previously outstanding that hadn't yet met their call date. So in your case, you had bonds that you issued in 2014 and they weren't callable, meaning you can't refinance them with tax-exempt bonds until 2024. Well, in 2020, rates were so low, you can do taxable bonds with that. Let me back up. The reason you can't do it before the call date is you're not allowed to have two sets of tax-exempt bonds outstanding for the same issuance. So you were locked in until 2024 unless you use taxable bonds. No one ever did it before because the taxable rates were so high, it wouldn't generate any savings. But during that time period of COVID, 2020 and 2021, the taxable interest rates were so low that you could advance refund, and that's what you all took advantage of. So you have these taxable bonds that are now have a new call date of 2030, but a tender offer is so unique. We're not asking to issue a new set of bonds for those. We're asking the current bondholders to forego their call feature and sell the bonds back to you.
And I know Ms. Witt asked this at the committee meeting. I thought it was a good question. Would there be an opportunity to move up the expiration dates on some of the repurchase principal to save even more?
Yes, absolutely. So right now, the taxable bonds, if you do nothing with them, the likelihood of refinancing those through a traditional refunding is slim to none because those rates are an average of probably 1.75%. So you could do nothing and you're locked in, and it's a great rate. If you do a tender offer refunding, and again, I'll just keep using 10 million for easy math, you get 10 million of accepted tenders. That new 8 million of tax exempt bonds that you've issued to pay those off, those are going to have a new call feature in place. And yes, we could look at selling like a 5-year call feature on those. So when we get to 29 and these only go out to 2034, you could look at refinancing those again.
I think that makes sense. But the way I'm thinking of it, if you have someone that wants to sell back their like current 2029 expiration bonds, could we move up those to 2027? Like reissue more on the front end than the back end, you know, knowing that we're going to have the savings So we more front load the current payments and generate more of the savings on the back end.
Yes.
Because then in
Yeah,
theory,
I
you don't
follow
have the
you now.
interest and you end up saving more.
Yep, and that's a great point. That's called an accelerated solution, and we can certainly look at that. The only thing I would just want to be cautious with is you have a lot of new money bonds that you need to sell over the next few years that were authorized from the election. So I would just work with Brett and you all to make sure that if we move some up, we're not going to cause for your levy to go up in 27 because of these other bonds that you're selling. So yeah, we'll just be very cognizant of the new money needs that you have, but if there's a way to accelerate the bonds that we sell to pay off the tenders, it's a great way to pick up more savings.
Yeah, I think if we move forward with it, I think it's worth the work to figure out. But yeah, I agree. We don't want to front load too much, and then we find ourselves in a tough spot being able to support those. But if we can be smart about it and save extra dollars, we should take it into account.
Sure.
Cody, I just wanted to say, regardless of whether the board decides to move forward with this or not, the fact that D.A. Davidson is willing to absorb the risk, the exposure, that says a lot about who you are and what D.A. Davidson stands for, being a good partner. The risk wasn't exorbitant to begin with, but there is exposure, and for you to step up and say, we want to be a team player, and if the board decides to do this, we want to take that off the list of concerns. So that means a lot, so I just wanted to thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I think we talked about it last time, but can you remind the board and the community why we're just hearing about this, like why we're bringing this up right now?
Yep, so as I mentioned a little bit ago, these are all based on the original 2014 bonds that were sold by the school district. And this is where that original call date does come into play, because you would be issuing a new set of tax exempt bonds. So the original call date was June of 2020. Actually, it was the end of May. It's May 25th of 2024. So we're almost to that date right now. We couldn't do anything prior to that because it would require issuing a new set of tax exempt bonds, which is against IRS code. So we're striking while the iron's hot. This is the soonest that you could do something with this, and obviously we're right there.
I had I didn't take enough notes to remember what this was. You mentioned a 3% cost for something about marketing.
Right. So those prices that were on the far right, if you could maybe pull one of those slides back up, Brett. The next one, or previous one. There you go. So that call price, the 97 cents on the dollar on the short end, or 79 cents on the dollar, that already has. If I held the bonds that are mature in 2034 and I wanted to sell those out in the open markets right now, you could. And the mark-to-market price is that 79 cents less 3%, or actually 3% more. So you guys are offering a 3% kicker on top of what they could trade in the open markets. That's the true incentive. If they're just viewing what's a good deal on that day, you all offering to buy them back at mark-to-market plus 3% is better than anywhere else they would get it. And it's a small amount in the big picture.
That makes sense. And the other new information that I don't recall knowing the first time was that we have to take out a loan to buy back the bonds. That was new information. So we're adding debt to the bond debt, but it's still saving us money in the end.
Yeah, you have to issue a new set of tax-exempt bonds to pay off the old ones, but that new issue amount will be less than whatever is bought back in. So if you're buying in 10 million, you're issuing 8 to buy those back. That's where the savings are generated. So you're not adding new debt, you're replacing debt with less.
Well, I'm all for saving the taxpayer money, so thank you for bringing this opportunity to us.
You're welcome.
We have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the attached resolution as presented for the authorization of a tender offer for certain outstanding bonds of the issuer and the issuance of bonds for the purchase and cancellation of tendered bonds pursuant to an invitation to tender.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Lotus and a second by Ms. Wood. Any other discussion? No? Roll call.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Ms. Witt?
Yes.
Ms. Wood? Yes. Mr. Lotus?
Yes.
Mr. Madler?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, thank you, Cody.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Again, on the timeline, we expect to have everything wrapped up with the new issuance of bonds on Friday, June 14th. So I hope to have good news for you at that time.
Okay. We know where to find you. Okay, moving on to section 4, discussion information items. Item A, the Young Adult Transition Program Construction Project. Mr. Richards.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Madler. We have a host of projects to discuss with you tonight and bring not to your attention because you've been a part of these for the last 2 years in development, but we're ready to move on some of these. So Pat Carson is here from BCDM tonight to share with us about the Young Adult Transition Program, construction program, project, and I'll jump in when I can.
Perfect. Yeah, we're excited to be able to come. I know this is one of the premier projects as a part of the current bond project. So what you see is a view of Liberty Middle School. That's the building that's being cut off on the right-hand side. So the new Young Adult Transition Program is located just west of Liberty Middle School down. It sits about 8 feet lower than the parking lot that's up there now. What you see is there's a road that would take you off of the access drive that takes you to the lot on the west side of Liberty. You come down that hill, there's a parking lot for about 28 cars, and there's a small building, it's about 11,000 square feet. Just to put that in context, the current new elementary model is about 55,000 square feet, so this building is about 20% the size of an elementary school, but it has most of the functions of an elementary school, just smaller and a little specialized. So if you want to flip to the floor plan, Brett. Watch the video first.
Well,
That's okay. Everyone wants to see the video anyway. So as we
the
come up
video
here
after.
to the south, you're going to enter in underneath a canopy here into the main entrance to the facility. As we go inside, a lot of those exterior materials match the materials that are on Liberty Middle School. It does have the typical secured entry. That's the standard within the district. And as we pop back out, there's sort of a center common space, a multifunction space with a kitchenette, et cetera, some daylight coming in. One of the nice things about this building, it's small enough that we're able to get daylight and natural light throughout the building. And then we'll just pop our head in one of the typical YATP classrooms. So again, multi-purpose. We spent a lot of time talking with Heather Post and Tammy Boyson on the project over the last 6 months. So if you go back one image, Brett, there should be, after the site plan, there should be a floor plan.
There should be a floor plan up here.
There should be. And if not, I'll use this. We'll just use this. If you go back, you can kind of see.
This one? Oh, here we go.
Yeah. Obviously, there's no labels on it, but again, you enter from the lower part, the south, as you come in. I'll sort of work my way counterclockwise as you enter that main secure vestibule. There's a office space with a reception area, a staff lounge, a workroom right to the right. As we come around, there is a teacher planning center and a nurses area. The classroom spaces are on the north, the top of the plan. There are 2 classroom spaces, and then in between is an apartment living lab to teach those life skills to those students. So that's a shared space between the 2 lab spaces, as we're calling them, for Young Adult Transition Program. Again, the big space in the middle is that higher volume space, the multi-purpose space. They'll use that for lunch. They'll use it to get the kids up and moving around. They don't have a gymnasium per se, but the space is a little higher volume. They can do a few activities within it. And then the spaces opposite that are a lot of the back of house spaces, a small kitchen, restrooms, mechanical rooms, et cetera. And then on the big space on the lower portion is where some of the specialists will come in and out of the building. So again, there's a separate room for the young adult transition program dedicated staff, and another space for the specialists who come and go throughout the day. Again, from a landscaping point of view, we're trying to ring the exterior areas with hedges and things, so we're blocking any headlights for those neighbors that are right next door. Other than that, we're able to gain some efficiencies by being on the Liberty campus. Work on this would begin this summer. It would be complete by next fall, so the fall of 25 will be complete. It goes fast, but it doesn't go that fast because they do have one of everything. and certain things like electrical gear and mechanical gear are still 8-9 months out, so you still have to wait for those, even though it's a smaller building. This is a project that we're doing with Sampson Construction, is the CMR partner for this particular project. What questions can I answer for you all?
I would say right now, just to throw in something before you have questions, we did estimate this project about $5 million. We added about 1,000 square feet as we started working with staff on square footage needs. So we're up about 5.6 million right now, construction cost wise. So I feel comfortable enough to recommend it still at that price. I know we're still doing some value engineering, try to get that down a little bit further before we bring it to the board in the next meeting. But it's well within our contingency for the project's estimates that we made moving into the bond phase of construction, because you're always going to have these projects where you have some come in lower, some come in more than the amount estimated, and this is the first one really that's come in a little higher than we estimated originally.
Yeah, and that was expected based on additional feedback. So when we originally went out for the bond in the original proposal, they weren't in Liberty Middle School, and having different space and bigger space, and that really generated some new ideas. So that's a few of those points were specifically mentioned at our liaison lunch that Dr. Rickley and Ms. Baranko and I went to, which was that separate space. What they enjoyed was a space for their specialists, because they were just across the hall at Liberty. So they really wanted to incorporate that, as well as separate space for the dedicated staff, and most importantly that simulated apartment to really focus on those living skills. So based on what you presented, Pat, that was checking boxes on about a lot of the wish list things that the staff had come up with, but not till after we had originally designed the building. So I was expected if we adopted some of those, the cost is going to go up. But I think those ideas and those recommendations are going to make a fantastic program even better, with their own dedicated space, designed the way that they feel the curriculum and the other activities can happen in that space. So I'm very happy to see this design and all those staff recommendations were taken into account.
I wish we had the bigger schematic, because this is really
Go ahead and make a comment.
kind
I'll
of
see if I
hard.
can pull that up in the meantime while you're talking.
Yeah, it's a little hard to really tell. I know you walked us through, and I don't think I missed it, but maybe I did. Is there any interior or inside exercise space in this building for students, so that when there's inclement weather or something like that, they can't be out, that they have, and we don't have to transport them somewhere?
Yeah, so the center space that has a little higher volume, that was
Okay.
one of the areas where we tried to merge things together.
Okay.
You'll also see, it's kind of hard to see on this, but there's almost a racetrack kind of a concept where the students can walk inside the building and come around, and they can do a few more activities in the higher volume space. So it's not true PE space, but it is adaptable space that can be used for that.
No, I think that's great. As long as the space can be adapted to allow for that, and we can keep our students active as well without having to transport to go somewhere else, I think that's really amazing. I think I really like this, but it's just hard to see. But I do appreciate that more thought went into asking people who are going to use the space what really would matter to them, and I can easily support the increase in size and cost, because we want this facility to work for everyone that's going to need to use it, and not say afterwards, gosh, I wish we had. So I think you've covered most all of those things with this layout.
Tell me again, so the classrooms are at the back.
Yeah.
Teachers are on the right side here. What's on the left across from the teacher area?
It's a lot of the service area. It's the small kitchen. It's the mechanical spaces, toilets.
Okay. And then the room for the specialists, is that just an open space?
It really is. It's desk space and storage space in a very large, adaptable environment. So it is a big room
Okay.
for all those folks to be able to do what they do together and individually.
Okay. Yeah, it looks awesome.
I guess the one question that just popped up was the parking lot. Was that designed to incorporate the vans?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I assumed it was. So I know that was some feedback that was a struggle with just the location of the entrance at Liberty where the vans have to go. So to have the van space and be so close is going to be a big win for them. So thank you.
Pat and Brett, obviously we've got a neighborhood in proximity to the parking lot in the building. You already have middle school there, of course, but do we anticipate either any issues with zoning from the city? Do we anticipate any issues with neighbors? We always want to be good neighbors to the residential areas. Any thoughts from either Brett or Pat on that?
Sure. We've met with the city on this a couple of times. They're confident that the current zoning allows for this function to happen, and so that's in the process of moving forward.
And Lucas is pulling it up for us.
Lucas to the rescue. Yeah, per usual.
This is close enough. This isn't like architect pretty, but I think you get the point. So, again, you come in from the bottom where you see those double sets of doors, the security vestibule. Thank you, Brett. And then as you turn to the right, there's a reception space, obviously glass, et cetera. The area behind the reception space is a small workroom. And then there's a staff lounge / conference room in the back. So that's sort of the administrative area of the building. As you move up, the teacher planning center sits just to the top of that. So those are spaces for about 6 full-time people to work out of that space. The suite to the north of that is the nurses area that has all the typical things, including a shower associated with it. When you go to the top, again, the 2 learning studios on either side are really meant to be the same, with that apartment living space in the middle. It has a kitchenette, it has a small toilet, it has a bedroom area, a living area, et cetera, to teach those skills. Again, the space down the middle is the high volume space. There's sort of a galley to one side of that space so that there can be events and things that can be hosted within that space. Again, to the left of that is all of that, what we call back of house areas. There's a serving window for the kitchen. There are toilets on the top and bottom, mechanical spaces, data closets, things like that. And then again, the space to the bottom is the service providers area. And so you see there are spaces for workspaces as well as storage spaces. You know, at one point this building was about 15,000 square feet in the design. And I'll give Heather and Tammy credit. They worked with us to get it back down to 11, which is still a little bigger, as Brett mentioned, than what the original vision was. But this is really a pretty efficient way of doing things. And then to the comment about exercising, the corridor that's next to the teacher planning center and nurses area is thought to be one, right there. And then you can loop around, walk back down the middle. And that's sort of that, if you will, a racetrack approach of being able to get the kids moving in inclement weather in that building.
And an area to meet with parents, would that be?
Either that staff lounge / conference space, or if it's appropriate, certainly the middle space would have lots of areas in it as well.
Yeah, I think we were really looking for that to be a conference room for the IEPs or whatever meetings we had. And the other thing I think is good to mention, Pat and his team did a great job of listening, but it is, you know, these are adults, so they're full grown. And so like the bathroom space is also has to be quite a bit larger because we need changing tables in there, wheelchair access, obviously. We have several students that have other equipments like standers and so on. So really, I think Tammy and Heather really worked hard to keep that flex space in the center so that it could be manipulated to serve those students with their specific needs that are there.
What's the capacity for this facility?
You know, those lab spaces on the other side of the apartment living, they're probably about 1,100 square feet each, so 900 feet is a typical elementary classroom. And so for these students, the ones that might have some of the adaptive equipment, it might only be 15 or 20. If it's some of the students who have full motion range, you could probably do 25 or 30 in spaces like that. I know many times these students are off in work environments during the day. And so I believe that at any given time, there might only be 35 to 40 students in the building at the same time. So I think that's the realistic capacity of the building. The fire code capacity is much higher.
In one of our discussions with staff as well, we talked about growth and this accommodating future growth, and we wanted to make sure we could accommodate double the kids we had in here now. So that's kind of an angle we took in developing the building.
Any other questions? No? All right. Well, thank you, Pat. Thank you, Mr. Richard.
Thank you, Lucas.
Thank you, Lucas, for helping out. Moving on to item B, summer facility improvement projects. Mr. Richard.
Yeah, I'm going to ask Mr. Carson to stay up with us here a little while longer, since he helped out with a lot of this with Lamper Nearson and development. The security fencing, we're ready to go with 4 schools for that. We will do you think about our bond projects, we have 8 elementary schools involved in those. So, of course, we're going to wait to do the fencing with the projects on those because we got to get in and out of the areas and not putting a fence in and then having to tear it up 2 years later to get to do a project. So we're just doing 4 here, the first round. We'll pick up the rest outside of the bond within the next 6 months or so as far as design work and get that back to the board, no later than probably January for a spring install on those. But we're looking at G. Stanley Hall, Carriage Hill, Rumsey Station, and La Vista West. And we had how many bids? We had 3 bids. Outback Fencing got the bid for $108,760. And basically, we're trying to tie some existing fence around the perimeter of the whole playground, not just the equipment, but the grass fields and everything. So this was an item that was brought up by staff as a big concern, that we have a lot of open playground areas where kids can run off, whether it be during recess or whatever, where somebody can come onto our property pretty easily during a recess. That's the reason for the fencing here, if you remember during the bond period timeline. So I brought up one of the examples. This example is G. Stanley Hall. So the black fencing there is the new fencing that would tie into old fencing around the neighborhood there. So we have fence lines all the way around those houses in the backside upper right-hand corner. So the black is going to kind of close it all in. And we'll have gates for our mowers and things of that nature, and gates to get in and out as well as part of the project. So each school we are kind of individually designed by our team to tie in existing fence with newer fencing. So that's kind of what that looks like on the security fencing side, if you have any questions on that.
When you said it ties into neighborhood fencing, is that our fencing or the neighbors own those fences?
I think it's a combination of both,
Yeah.
depending on which building you're at.
All right.
And we want to make sure they're in good condition. If it's not in good condition, then we look at replacing or putting ours in front of that even. So,
So what's the fencing look like? Does it look like what we typically have out there now?
Yeah.
Same height, the silver,
Yes.
metal?
6 foot.
Yep, 6-foot galvanized
Galvanized.
fence. Yep.
So that's kind of what we're trying to do with this project. Moving on to security film, a little bigger project to do this summer. We did Anderson Grove already as kind of a pilot test because we'd never been associated with architects or ourselves with doing that. Rainbow Glass was good enough to do that with us. And now we have 12 schools a part of this bid. Of course, the schools that are in the bond will do it as the project dictates, so we don't mess that up with construction by putting it in prior to the renovation. So we had 4 bids received on this one. Interesting process to go through to find the vendors. They found us for the most part. Pat and I were getting a lot of calls on this, a lot of interest. We checked out a lot of different different types of security film. And the big thing we ended up finding with the different types of security film is the thickness was very important. So during our proposal, we went out with thickness depths to make sure that we got the desired effect of what we wanted to have happen by really delaying a perpetrator with these security films. So there's different size of thickness of security film in different areas of the building. We won't get into great details with that in a public meeting for sure. But we came up with a good philosophy there, I think, working with the architects and some other districts on what they did. Revolution Wraps came in as the low bidder. So $174,869 gets us quite a bit done. The 3M product film is what they use to do that. So if you want to go on 3M's site, or Revolutionary Wrap site, website actually has some demonstrations of that film to take a look at, but it's pretty good stuff and used throughout the country in the schools.
Yeah, most of the other major districts in the metro are using that same film for similar reasons.
Okay.
Can I just ask a quick question? I know our primary thought process behind why we wanted to put the security film on there, but are there side benefits to it, such as when we have strong winds and storms, that it would help with that glass not shattering more than it does, or, you know?
Yeah, it will hold the glass together.
Okay.
If you think of tempered glass, like you might see in the movies, when you smash the glass, it'll break into a million
And it goes
tiny
into all those
pieces.
little pieces.
It will still break into a million tiny pieces, but they will all stay connected
Okay.
because of the glass.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of getting at, and thank you for that, because it is another advantage that the film's providing, not the primary reason we were putting it on there, but it's another advantage we will reap from that, so, thank you.
Yeah, great question. Vandalism as well. Yeah, it'll stop some of that from gaining entrance. Any questions on the security film? That's the information we'll share on that at this particular time. And Ashbury Preschool is another one that we've been waiting on. As you know, with our resurfacing of playgrounds around the district at this time, it takes a long time to get this done. So we started this process early last fall, or actually last summer, when we knew we were going to have a preschool over at Ashbury for the first time. So trying to get this playground for the little ones in the school is paramount for us here. So Dossels was the only bid to put in, not surprising. There's not a lot of companies that do work, although I got an email from somebody trying to move into the area just today, which is good for the future, I guess, when we're trying to get bids from different companies. Dossels is good. They're really good. They didn't do our resurfacing playground last time, but they do most of the playgrounds around the area. Lamper and Earson and BCDM work with him quite a bit. He's very reasonable. Even though we only got one bid, we feel pretty good about what our estimates were compared to what it came out with there. And I'll give you a little example of what something that looks like for the little ones. So this is kind of similar to what you'll see at the Ashbury site. You'll have the poured green, since that's their school colors, with the black, and some of that equipment that you see on the screen here. Any questions on Ashbury Playground? This will be done. You can kind of see the timeline in the packet by September 15th. My gut is it'll probably be done a little earlier than that, depending on how his summer's going. But once he gets in there, he gets out pretty quick.
Yeah. I know they're excited for it. So
Yeah.
right now, it's just obviously they've had to makeshift an area on the current playground, so it's kind of limited some of the use by the other non-preschool students, and so it'll be nice to have a specific area for them.
Yeah, for sure.
And open back up the rest of the playground, so very exciting.
Okay. And then last but not least is the Media Center project that was kind of precipitated by Becky Hoke going out for a Meta grant. We have $175,000 in grants to go towards this project. So we've been working. We went out for bid, a public bid, and the bid came in well over $300,000. We went back to the drawing board with our partner Sampson. Really got that down to some necessities that we had to have in that room, and got the cost, as you see, down to about $233,000 from Sampson throughout that process. So there will be a little district kick in on this for the construction side, but for an important academy program that serves both high schools and kids. It's an important part of our reputation and programming within the district. So, kicking in, less than $75,000 of this project construction-wise seems to be like a pretty good deal for us as a district.
One of the other side benefits to the work at the Media Academy, besides the academy and the benefits it'll offer our students, is I suspect our communications office with the green screen capabilities and some of the other infrastructure, it'll directly benefit our comms office as well.
Yeah, good point, Dr. Rickley. This classroom would be located on the west end of the building. We'll zoom in here a little bit as far as the floor plans go, and I'll let Pat take over a little bit here.
So yeah, I think the biggest thing is from the original vision to this vision, most of what changed were some of the mechanical, electrical connections and a little bit of how the green screen was set up. But in terms of its functionality, it still does all the things that the original vision wanted to do. So it's fairly simple, retaking that space, creating a vestibule to keep noise down, a control booth area, a large production room with the set space there along the south wall, and then there's a voiceover booth in the corner. So it's pretty simple in plan. There's a lot going on in terms of the technology.
Questions for us on the Media Center?
Yeah, I really like the location. I mean, it seems like it's right on the back of the trades area, so it really ties in the STEM and the technology. I think it's going to be a phenomenal space when it's done. So thanks to Ms. Hope for going out and getting. I mean, I think that would, one particular classroom would have been a tough sell to say, hey, we're going to add $250,000 into a bond to do a single, academy space. So I'm really glad she was proactive and Meta for the funds so we can get the project done and have minor costs to the district.
So this is a fully functioning studio with remote cameras and audio and all that. How fabulous. Thanks.
Miss Siri, when is summer school and where is it at? I guess, I always have to look out for those summer school people, and if you're going to be putting fences up, just remembering that they do use the outside space at summer school as well. And, it just really causes a problem when there's construction going on in the middle of it. So I'm just going to put a plug in there that if we're having summer school at Vista West again, please don't put the fence up during summer school.
And we are at La Vista West, yes. That's
And
where
our
we're at.
contractors will do a good job of working with around the summer school. We got 3 other projects that they'll be doing, so chances are we'll be starting those first and then waiting for that to kind of get wound up. Okay.
Anything else from Mr. Richards? Mr. Carson? No? All right, well, appreciate it, Pat.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, then moving on to item C, District Copier's request for proposal. Mr. Richards.
Yes, so our copier proposal's up over a 5-year contract with leasing and for our print management services out there, which include all copiers and printers in the district. So this equipment wears out within that 4 to 5 year period. You tend to get a lot more calls in that 5th year than you would in the 1st or 2nd year. So you go out for bid, and we did that. 3 companies put in. We got really good bids from a couple that were competitive. We felt like as a committee, and we really appreciate the technology team for putting a lot of the data together for the committee to look at and examine to pick this next company. And it ended up being the same provider that we currently have, Access Systems, and they'll come in and replace all our equipment over the summer. All the copiers and printers throughout the district will get replaced. We'll have new equipment in the STEM rooms as well for their needs, as well as our print shop. We're estimated about 2.5% increase overall district-wide in costs. It's very difficult to get apples to apples in costs in these things because we do pay for basically every click on those machines a price. So trying to figure out, exactly what the costs are for all of this is, the technology team was amazing coming up with some of those prices and estimates. So we really appreciate that.
Does this include like CAD printing and all of the things the classrooms would use as well, or just?
Yes, so, it entails all the print services for the whole district, yes.
Yeah, no, and Access is a very reputable company. I've in my, as Val said, my paid job, I've used their services in the past. They really do a good job here locally. So.
Yeah, they're good. They've been a good company for us. We've made some jokes probably in the selection process that there's no great service company out there for copiers and printers, but there is pretty good ones, and we feel like we got a pretty good one.
Any additional questions or comments? No? All right. Thank you, Mr. Richards. And finally for you, item D, Transportation Services Request for Proposal.
Yes, another RFP. 3 years goes very fast, and I remember this was approved right before I came in to the district, so I had a chance to work with First Student for 3 years. They were the only ones that did respond to our proposal. We had a few other companies that were interested, including Student Transportation of America and Chief, but they never put in a proposal. There's a lot changing in the metro right now. With transportation companies, I know maybe you saw some things on the news with Omaha Public Schools. Zoom got their bid from, they've never done business in Nebraska before. So they're coming in. So Student Transportation of America, that puts them at a little bit odds in determining their future when you lose a big client like that. They've got, I think, one more year of contract with Millard as well. So I think that unstable environment maybe kept them from putting in a proposal for us, which we're probably grateful for because we have a pretty stable company right now with First Student within the metro. There isn't a lot of these anymore out there that do a lot of services for districts, so we're pretty fortunate, I think, to have First Student. This proposal that they have includes 4 new buses for the district, including 2 that have wheelchair access, which we did not have prior to, so we would use some of our buses and vans for things that we needed to do around the district during the day, possibly. We do have need for that, and they were good enough to put that into the proposal for us. So we're appreciative, and 11 buses will be 2021 or newer with this proposal. So we're happy about that as well. So we have less buses breaking down out there, so that's good. And the kids are riding on safer buses with cameras, 3 cameras on every bus, as you see. We have an estimate about a 3% increase on this first year, and then it's 5% per year after. Okay, so we're talking about 4-year contract, 3% the first year, 4, 4, 4, or 5, 5, 5. I'm sorry, which is pretty steep. I was a little surprised the bid came in this low, to be honest with you, because of the labor shortage with bus drivers. I think they did that when you look at Zoom and what they're coming in with, and the amount of money they're offering their drivers to participate. They're going to need that 5%. That's just the market we live in to keep bus drivers busing for us as well. So Dr. Rickley and I even talked about that 5% this morning a little bit and felt like, we totally understand that. I wish the legislature would understand that when they try to cap us at 3%, that inflation is happening around us, but they haven't done that yet. But we need to be able to absorb those 5% costs each year after next year. Any questions?
And do you feel, even though they're the only bid, do you feel comfortable moving forward, obviously, and not trying again for additional bids?
We do. The good thing about the bid process is they don't know they're going to be the only bid, too. And looking at the prices that you see in front of you in your packet compared to what the prices were per route in other districts, believe me, when I saw some of the route prices coming in with the other district proposals, I was very nervous. I know one district that's close to us was their provider offered them a 42% increase on their route prices. So when our bid came in, we were ecstatic, to be honest with you. So yeah, I think we're comfortable to recommend this. Mm-hmm.
And you're talking through some of the challenges with the busing companies, and this is a 4-year contract. What is our out if, what was this, first student, first student kind of has additional challenges over the next 4
Sure.
years, and we want.
You know,
might wanna think
I
else.
think the good thing is you have to give, within the proposal that we put out, you have to give a 90-day notice, and it would have to be before the end of the fiscal year. So you can't just walk out on us on December or January, a 90-day notice. You have to wait for the following school year. So we'd have to have 90 days, so that would put us probably about March. They'd have to inform us that they're not going to be able to service our district the following year.
Or the other way around?
Or the other way around.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, we can do the same thing, 90-day notice.
Okay.
One of the other considerations is just the cost of transition, and if the money and the service makes sense, then transitioning to a different provider probably makes sense too. But I reflect back 3 years ago when we went from longtime provider, Varsity Transportation. They were a great partner for a very long time. But anytime you switch from one transportation provider to another, there's going to be growing pains. They don't know us, we don't know them. It's hard to quantify the cost. So setting aside the fact that this appears to be a pretty reasonable bid, even though typically we like to have at least 2, if not 3 or 4, it does on its face appear to be a reasonable bid. And I think there is something reassuring knowing that after 3 years, I think we have a better sense of what they're all about and priorities and how they do business and how they communicate and how they respond when we give them feedback and vice versa. So I think there is that benefit too of working with a provider that we have a proven track record with.
I just had one question, just because I want to make sure I'm understanding. When you look at the activity routes, both the elementary and the secondary have an overcharge hourly fee. Is that when they have to sit longer, wait longer? Is that what that is for?
Yeah, usually I'm thinking there's a 3-hour charge listed, and then they charge an overage per hour after that.
After that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's where that comes from.
If you want to drive, that's not too bad a pay.
I'll shoot you over the application.
Yes, we are looking for drivers all the time, both for student and in-house for special education as well.
Any additional comments, questions? No? All right.
Thank
Mr.
you very
Richards. Moving on to item E, review policy 5,000 students. Dr. Rickley.
Thank you very much. I'll invite Dr. Trent Steele to the podium. As the board is aware, we cover the policy series in the month that corresponds with the 1,000 series. It's January, 2000 series, February, so forth and so on. Because of Dr. Settle's some of her family commitments, we're still working on the 4,000 series. So if the board has thoughts, observations, suggestions on the 4,000 series, we are still looking at that. But in the meantime, since we are in the 5th month of the year, we are at the 5,000 series, which deals with general operations and students in particular. And Dr. Steele will talk just a little bit about the next steps in that process. Dr. Steele.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. It is the time of year for the 5,000 policy series review, as Dr. Rickley said. We are in the process of developing policy proposals for your consideration. These will be to make our policies commensurate, especially with changes that have occurred in Lincoln at the unicameral, to bring ourselves legally up to speed. And we will get those to you for your consideration. So tonight, we're merely placing it on the agenda, and we will look forward to discussion further at subsequent meetings.
Thank you, Dr. Steele, and congratulations yesterday on your son's graduation.
Well, thank you, and I have to tell you, this was the first time I've sat through a commencement exercise as a parent and not supervising, and it was enjoyable, and it really is a wonderful ceremony, very dignified.
Yeah, and that air horn I heard was from you yesterday?
That was not from me, but I think it was the guy behind me.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Nice. Well, appreciate it. Thank you, Dr.
you.
Steele. Okay, that wraps up Section 4, discussion information items. Moving on to Section 5, future board calendars. May 15th, 2024, the FASE Awards at 3:40 here at Central Office. May 16th, 2024, the Ideal Graduation at PLHS at 6 p.m. in the auditorium, I believe. May 20th, 2024, the PLCS Foundation Board meeting at 6 p.m. with Mr. Bailey and Dr. Rickley. May 21st, 2024, last day of school, and that is a half day. May 27th, 2024, office closed for Memorial Day. And then our next board meeting, June 10th, 2024, Board of Education meeting at 6 p.m. here at the central office. Seeing no further business in front of the board, I will adjourn the meeting at 7:35. Thank you all.